Well, joining us live is Defence Strategy and Capability Senior Analyst at the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, Dr. Malcolm Davis. Thank you so much, Dr. Davis, for joining us. So we have seen, of course, in the last couple of days, those strikes from both sides. And then a lot of people saying it is going to escalate. Can you just give us a general overview on your opinion on what's happening and what you're going to be looking out for in the next couple of days?
Sure. Look, I think that what's happening is that both sides have large stockpiles of missiles and drones and cruise missiles. And I think that there's no real off-ramps on the horizon in terms of de-escalating this. So I think that Israel is going to continue to attack Iran's nuclear facilities with the aim of ultimately destroying Iran's nuclear capabilities to prevent them from getting nuclear weapons. But they'll also continue to attack other targets across Iran, including targets designed to weaken the leadership and create the potential window of opportunity for regime change. I think those are the goals of the Israelis. The goals of the Iranians are to continue to retaliate against Israel, to inflict massive damage on Israeli cities, cause numerous casualties as a result. And certainly from the Iranian perspective, there's also the option they have to escalate by attacking other states in the region. So this war will continue. I'm not seeing any diplomatic or negotiated solution to this war.
And we have heard that there have been talks in Oman, but I believe that this recent one has been cancelled, but the ones previously, I believe, haven't really sort of got much out of them.
Exactly. I mean, the Americans came to the Iranians and said, look, we can have a negotiated solution that basically avoids this war if you give up uranium enrichment. Uranium enrichment is the process ultimately by which Iran gets nuclear weapons. The Iranians refused to give up uranium enrichment, and it was very clear that the diplomatic process that was going on was going nowhere. And I think that's why Israel launched these attacks, because they recognized that diplomacy was failing. Now, if you have a resumption of negotiations between the US and Iran in Oman, the Americans are going to come to the table with the same package, and the Iranians are going to have the same response. So I'm not convinced that diplomacy is going to lead to off-ramps or de-escalation. I think that diplomacy, if it happens, will be very short, very brief, and not really that useful.
And we're keeping a close eye on the International Atomic Energy Agency, who have come out and, you know, we're seeing it's the first time in 20 years that Iran has not complied. But we just had a nuclear expert on from the University of New South Wales, and we're talking about civil-grade nuclear and weapons grade. So it's monitored strictly here in Australia, as you well know. And in terms of Iran, for example, how is it monitored? Of course, we've heard the IAEA, but again, it's that significant amount of nuclear that's been enriched to get to nuclear weapons grade. So how do we know how much there is?
Well, we don't really, in the sense that the Iranians have been doing undeclared enrichment activities and nuclear-related activities at undisclosed or facilities, and the IAEA have basically picked them up on that. And so I think that we don't really have full access right across the board to the Iranian nuclear facilities. There's a facility called Fordo, for example, which is about 500 feet underground. It's one of their key enrichment facilities. The Israelis don't have a means to actually attack that, so the Israelis are approaching the Americans for assistance in attacking that target. But it would be very difficult to actually be 100% sure that the Iranians are not enriching uranium up to the level of weapons grade, which is about 90% enrichment. And the IAEA have indicated that the Iranians were within a matter of weeks of having sufficient weapons grade fissile material for 10 nuclear weapons. That is another reason why the Israelis decided to act at this time.
We've got 10 seconds to go, but what could that potentially have done to not only Israel, but to the rest of the world?
If you look at the size of Israel, it's a very small state, very highly urbanized. It would not take a huge number of nuclear weapons to literally wipe Israel off the face of the earth and destroy the Jewish state entirely. That is what the Iranians keep on saying, death to Israel. Nuclear weapons are the means to do that.
Dr. Malcolm Davis, thank you.
Thank you.